You know what we need?
I know some things that I need. Yeah, I do. I do. What were you thinking?
No, but you know what we need? We need, you know how when people go to see a sitcom and they sit in the audience before the show, there's a comedian, usually a B-list or C-list comedian who comes out and does a warm-up for the audience.
Sure.
Well, we need one of those we need somebody to come do a warm-up for us, like to do a little, so that when the show starts, we're popping. We're ready to go.
Well, that's possible, but isn't the warm up comedian for the audience?
Yeah, but I feel like we need one. We need one
Okay.
so that when the show starts, we're like, hey, ready to go. Because
I think
sometimes
that's
the
on us.
show's
Why don't we just do that? Why don't we just start saying
telling each
things
other
like that?
jokes.
Hey.
Hey, okay, we'll give that a try. How
Um,
are
I,
you? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. I'm well. I'm still here, drinking some coffee. You're having some beer. Cheers. How are
Cheers.
you?
Beverages of choice. How am I? I'm good. I have tomorrow. I have to go tour a bottling facility. The day after that, I have to go tour a warehouse. Things I never thought I'd be doing in my life.
It sounds like you've gotten in some kind of criminal activity.
It does sound like that, doesn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm I'm a sopranino, not the Sopranos. I'm too little to be that, but I'm a sopranino,
You're working your way up.
working my way up. Yeah,
Soon you'll be able to, be in a cargo plane or something like that.
yeah, exactly. Um, what are you doing? What was your week like?
Oh, just working, hustling, a lot of editing, and trying to up my game on my research, get a little bit more, you know, intense on these notes that we take. I didn't do it, but I'm trying.
You're trying. You
Yeah.
thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think about, one of the things we talked about adding last week was the matchup for a movie? What this would be a good double bill for? Did you spend time thinking about that?
I'll come up with something.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking about it. Didn't come up with anything, but I thought about it. So
I actually
that's what I
just
think.
came up with something. I know exactly what it should be.
Okay, I came up with something too. I wonder if we came up with the same thing.
I would double bill this with Key Largo.
Oh, okay. So you went with the weather theme.
Well, locked room weather, yeah.
Weather. Huh. I went with the parallax view.
Just straight assassination theme.
Straight assassination cover up conspiracy
That's a
thing.
good one.
Yeah.
That's good. I would do
Yeah.
double bill of either of those.
So that would work. Or anything released by Universal that has that logo at the beginning of the big planet, because of that shot used multiple times in this movie that went absolutely nowhere.
Well, we're gonna have a time talking about this then. If you think that's nowhere, let's discuss.
I think that's the beginning of nowhere in this movie. But let's talk about other things before we get to the movie. Is there
Okay.
anything else we need to cover for the week? Anything you're
Um,
watching that is interesting?
no, I'm watching old movies for this podcast and my other podcast. I'm not up to date, and I'm less up to date every minute, and I'm enjoying that intensely.
Okay.
How about
I'm
yourself?
watching I'm
You're
watching a series called Borderland from Finland. That's pretty interesting.
What happens in that show? What's
What
going on?
happens? It's a cop show. It's a guy who has sort of the Sherlock Holmesian sort of memory palace idea. Do you know about that?
Yes.
People who can build this thing called a memory palace in their
Yes.
minds. Well, it's about a cop who has a special skill with that, who is a major crimes cop in Helsinki, and things start getting to him. So he retires with his family to a small town, thinking he'll be able to get away from things. And guess what?
Things are pretty rough in that little small town too. They're just as disturbing.
Yeah.
There's
so
probably a serial killer at
there-
work.
there's things like that going on, and it's a border town on the border between Finland and Russia, because they share a border there up in the hinterlands, and so there's sort of cross-border Russian mob crime going on as well. So hilarious
Cheerful-
hijinks ensue.
Cheerful time. Wonderful.
Yeah, and especially since it's Finland, it's even more cheerful.
Are they not cheerful?
It sort of makes Strindberg look like light comedy. It's
Well, I'm sure there's some people in Finland who are having a grand time. If we have any fans in Finland, no offense to your great nation or your lifestyle.
No, it looks.
I'd
great.
like to make
I
that
would
clear. My
actually-
brother
I'd
is
actually like to
uncaring.
I'd like to spend time there.
You're not
It just
invited now.
no. It just looks like you guys have a little bit of sad. And by sad, I mean seasonal affective disorder, that you don't get a lot of sunlight.
And I think what they would say is by that they mean that they are rationally thinking human beings who are able to deal with sadness and melancholy in an appropriate way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
As opposed to trying to be Americans who just laugh in the face of the demise of the entire world and pretend it's not happening.
Glad we're not doing a political show. That was a good choice.
No, okay. Let's move on to the movie.
That was a great choice for us.
Should we move on to the movie, perhaps?
Well, I can't think of anything exciting in my life to tell you about. I've
Okay.
racked my brain. I've tried to think of something cool. I haven't even finished watching Squid Game, so I'm
Wow.
useless.
Wow. Okay.
Useless.
Okay.
But I did see not Casino Royale. I saw Battle Royale, so I paid at the office.
Okay. All right. There you go. All right. Well, let's talk about this week's installment, Rashomon. I mean, Snake Eyes. Did I say something wrong? You made a face.
No, I was laughing.
For the people on the podcast, he made a face. I have to tell you that he made a face because although he's claiming that he was laughing, there was no audible on it.
Well, I didn't say anything because, yes, I was waiting to see where you were going to go with it. I'm already concerned. I'm concerned.
You're concerned about how this evening is going to go.
A little bit. A little bit.
Yeah, because I'm not going to hold back.
Well, nor should you.
Okay.
We're talking about Snake Eyes, 1998 Snake Eyes, directed by Brian De Palma and starring Nicolas Cage, Carla Gugino, and many other people. Louis Guzman's in it. Gary Sinise is in this movie.
Yeah.
Who are some of the other actors you might see in this movie, Matthew?
Oh my God. John Hurd plays Donald Trump in it. The Carla Gugino is wonderful, but she's young. She's 27, so a lot can be excused. There is the triple play of Luis Guzman, Kevin Dunn, and Michael Rispoli, who
great stuff.
That triple play makes this movie worth watching right there. Tamara Tooney, Chip Zine, the great Chip Zine. I don't know if you know Chip. I know Chip from...
Never met Chip. Everybody I know knows Chip, and I'm out in the cold again.
Terrific guy. Mike Starr, who I worked with on some show at one point. David Anthony Higgins, and a pair of those guys, or that's guy, or however you want to make that a plural, Peter McRobbie and Joel Fabiani show up.
Okay.
And,
did you mention Stan Shaw?
I was going to get to Stan Shaw because he has what we'll get to is my favorite moment in the movie.
Yeah, mine too. We're all probably on the same page about a lot of it.
Kelly Deadman is in this movie. I don't know if you knew that.
No, didn't know that.
You know Kelly.
Sure.
You don't know Kelly?
Why not?
From the voiceover, from
sure.
Voiceover Land.
We're friends. She just switched over the house.
Yeah, married to Victor Verhage.
My buddy, we have pizza together every Tuesday.
Yeah, no, Kelly's wonderful.
You're talking to post-pandemic, Tony. I don't know anybody. I have You're the only person I talk to.
And then my other favorite performance in the movie, Alain Goulem, who's the video tech who operates the flying eye.
He's
Who
good in
just
it.
actually seemed like an actual video tech that they stuck in the movie.
Yeah, he did. He did seem that way. Um, so yeah, so Snake Eyes, 1998. I didn't give a good goddamn about this movie when it came out, but I didn't
But times have
really.
changed, apparently.
Well, I didn't see it when I haven't. I've not seen this movie. I when it came out, I thought it was. I wasn't kind of. I was out of a De Palma phase.
Okay.
I was much less interested in his big budget stuff, and I like his early horror. Generally, like his early horror movies a lot.
Okay.
And then I wasn't as big a fan, but I've come around on that to a large extent on a lot of his movies, and so I didn't see this because I thought it was about gambling. Really, I mean, it kind of is a little bit about gambling, but I thought the whole movie was about gambling. I'm not really that interested in gambling movies, so I gave it a pass. Did you see this before?
No. No.
Why do you say that? Why didn't you see it? You like
What?
gambling movies.
I'm not a Nick Cage guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not a Nick Cage.
Do you like movies? I'm trying to get an idea of what it is about them that you like, but
Well, here's the thing. There are people who like, I love dogs. I love dogs. I love dogs. You know those people? A lot of people like that, right? They love
Sure.
dogs. I don't love dogs. I don't love people. There are people that I love, but as a whole, like I can't say people. The race of people are all great. There are
Yeah.
great people. There are horrible people.
Well,
There are
people
dogs
include
that
bad people. when
There
you
are
say people.
dogs that I love. There are most dogs, no. So movies fall into that like everything else.
Yeah.
There are movies that I love
Yeah.
that I think are well crafted but see, we talked about this
I
a
hear
little
you.
bit last week. You
No,
just
it's-
love movie. Like
I do.
it's movie.
Well-
It was made with film and pieces were put together. I love it.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, you're kind of implying that I have no taste at all.
No,
but
no.
okay, great. Let's continue.
I'm not
Let's
saying
continue talking about a director who you didn't know until last week. You'd seen Carlito's Way?
And
It's-
I loved Carlito's Way.
Yeah, it's a very atypical De Palma movie. So you're clearly not a De Palma fan.
And I liked didn't he direct The Untouchables?
Yeah.
I liked that movie.
Well, you and a lot of other people, and won
Yeah.
a lot of Oscars. I mean, yeah, a lot of people liked
there you
it.
go. This movie didn't match up to that for me. That standard that he met in those two movies, this movie didn't hit that. But
Yeah, okay.
we should fill people in maybe a little on what this is about before we start ripping it to shreds.
Go ahead, take it away. What's it about?
Oh, I have to do it. Okay. It's about a corrupt cop in Atlantic City who is just on the take from everybody and loves it. Loud, brash, Hawaiian shirt wearing, graft taking cop, gambling, loves being on the boardwalk, loves the opportunities, married but has a girlfriend. And it's the night of a big fight in Atlantic City at John Hurd's new hotel casino that is opening. And there's a big fight going on. And coming to the fight is he the Secretary of State or the Secretary of Defense?
Secretary of Defense.
Secretary of Defense. The Secretary of Defense is going to be there along with his big security detail, which for some reason is being run not by the Secret Service, but is being run by an admiral or something like that by the name of Gary Sinise. I'm sorry, by the name of Kevin Dunn. Not the Kevin Dunn, the actor who's in the movie, but the character Kevin Dunn.
It was confusing for production too, apparently.
Yeah, there's a good story about that. And then of course there's an assassination of the Secretary of Defense, and it's all tied up with some new missile system that's got to go through. And there's a lady in red and there's a lady in white. I didn't get the symbolism there of those two things, but we can talk about that. And lo and behold, it turns out that Nick Cage's good buddy, the military guy who was supposed to protect the Secretary of Defense, was actually in on the plot to kill him, because Carla Gugino was a lowly tech operative on the testing for the missile system and discovered flaws in the system and was getting that information to the Secretary of Defense, and the new missile system was not going to go through. And Gary Sinise wanted the new missile system to go through, so he engineered the assassination of the Secretary of Defense and Carla Gugino, the lowly tech operative, and is going to kind of engineer Nick Cage to either help him cover it up because he's so corrupt or be the fall guy.
That's in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big nutshell, but
that's a big nutshell. But that's what the movie's about, and it's told in real time with repeated sequences that we see from another point of view when we see them the second time, to ostensibly give us new information.
Yes. And you were not entertained. You are dismally upset, and you feel like this was a waste of your time. This doesn't work for you, and you don't like it.
It did not work. No. Let me be frank. It did not work for me. Largely because of Nick Cage, who I think Nick Cage, when he's is overacting when he's not overacting. So casting him as somebody who is overacting and trying to be larger than life is redundant. So that 20-minute scene of him, that one shot, which was actually many shots with whip pans and things like that, it irked me, to put it mildly.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
I didn't buy him at all.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's Nicolas Cage, so that's a funny thing to say to me. That's like actually just a funny statement you just made. But
what fun? Okay, explain why is it funny? Because you never buy Nick Cage. He's not supposed to be bought.
No, absolutely not. I am wildly entertained by Nicolas Cage most of the time. I seek out movies of his to see. He's one of the few actors that will actually bring me to a film. Not always for the right reasons, or the purest of motivations, but
okay, see, there we have it.
No, we don't have it, because I love it, and I love him, and I want to see what he does. I mean, I do love movies, and I love watching, people go crazy in films. Nick Cage goes crazy. He does it good. I mean, he's I don't think that it's recommended to act that way, but I think when he does make a case for it for me. So,
but see, I there are people who I like watching go crazy in movies too. So, for instance, Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems. It's fair to say he goes crazy.
Yeah, but that's a comparatively very mild performance compared to Nick Cage in Snake Eyes. It's very naturalistic, real performance.
Okay.
I mean, Nick Cage is not doing natural. You can't really compare that at all. The styles are completely different. And I feel like Nick Cage is, for the most part, synced up to the crazy operatic, like incredibly cheesy, luxury filmmaking on display here too. I think it matches it perfectly. So I think that having somebody more serious in that part who you believe more would tank the movie the other way. You know, I mean, this to me has more in common with like a Batman movie than with anything else. For instance, it starts with the globe for the Daily Planet is the first thing I thought of when I saw it.
Right.
But
Okay, but would
I
you?
will. Yeah, go ahead.
But picking up on what you're saying about the operatic and the larger than life thing, right?
Mhm.
Which I get. Would you say then that what Pacino is doing in Carlito's Way is is in the same vein of a larger than life operatic performance?
Yeah, I mean it's Pacino's style, and I think it's
Right.
more. I mean, don't forget, Nick Cage was like one of the first serious actors who was desperate to play Superman.
Right.
I mean, he's like an Elvis fan. He's got a pop sensibility about him, and you know, I just I'm I can watch. Okay, my friend Maple Dragon says, "See, this is where we can have a respectful bipartisan discussion where we can reach across the aisle, pro Cage, anti Cage coming together." I don't think so, Maple Dragon. Peter, that's not what's going to happen. This is going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be ugly. Started disrespectfully about some incredible filmmaking. I feel like we started on the wrong foot here, because you start off like complaining about Nick Cage, and I can get that if you're not into the cage, if you're not into the cage, you know,
I'm not.
you
But
don't want a
it's not.
cage match. It's just not your thing.
It's not because I don't like the larger than life and operatic. Like I love it when Pacino does it
I
because
don't. That's where we differ. I think it's usually lousy when Pacino does it. I liked it okay in Carlito's Way, but any hoo-hawing from him, I'm turning the channel. Nick
hoorah,
Cage. See,
hoorah.
the thing about Cage is that like half the time you spend just being amazed that somebody has the audacity to do what they're doing in front of people, and I love that extremeness of it. I don't love it the way that I love, like.
But I don't. When I watch Nick Cage, I don't see it as audacity. I see it as lack of any kind of awareness. Audacity to me implies an awareness of where the line is and where acceptable behavior is, and making an active choice to be audacious. And I feel like Nick Cage is just uh, a crazy man.
I completely disagree. I think Nick Cage created his own brand. I think he created his own franchise, and he is consistently delivering entertainment. We're talking about a giant movie star. We're not talking about like someone who's doing O'Neill at the Cherry Lane Theater right now. We're talking about a
Oh,
giant action movie star who was in some of the silliest movies ever made, and he knows it. And I think he commensurately entertains himself and takes on a very, I mean, it's like a Warner Brothers cartoon. It's not real most of the time, even approaching it. It is seemingly very attention grabbing and manic, and it's all those things. I can't condone it. I can just say that I'm just really happy he's making movies, because it would be cilantro. Maple Dragon says he's the cilantro of acting. You're either genetically disposed or not. Okay, that makes a kind of sense. Look, I mean, we could talk. I think it's rough that you agreed to enter into a show, a Nicolas Cage month, which we're staring down the barrel of that, and you were fine with that when I suggested it. So
yeah.
you basically just want to drag him through the mud. And may I say, our brother is friends with Nicolas Cage, and what if he's watching this? That's pretty rough.
Oh Jesus, Nick. I'm sorry. And here's the other thing: is I'm willing to be educated. And I think Anthony, I think you'll attest to the fact that I'm willing to be educated, because we have not seen eye to eye on things, and I've come around.
You're not
And
intractable.
there are Nick Cage movies that I've watched where I've loved him and thought he was extraordinary.
Okay. Name one so we can at least have some positivity on the show.
Moonstruck.
Okay. Mine would be Raising Arizona. love that performance. You know, I mean, I think it's a dead end street talking about Nicolas Cage's acting, because I think Maple Dragon's right. You either you're kind of like along for the ride, and you are genetically predisposed to enjoying Nicolas Cage's movies. Because I'll go watch the Wicker Man remake tonight. I will.
You're
You
not
know,
going to do that. You're saying you would. You're saying you would, but you're not going to. We're not going to hang up from this show, and you're going to go watch The Wicker
you
Man.
don't really actually know that. I might. That's
I'm going
not
to
out
call
of.
you
That's,
tomorrow.
I'm
I'm going to call you tomorrow morning.
not making any promises. I'm just saying that it wouldn't be completely out of character for me to spend the 2 hours after we do the show watching, for
The Wicker
instance,
Man.
the remake of Wicker Man.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. It's a little dangerous to start talking about a De Palma movie and to start with the acting. I think that's generally considered maybe the not the leader, not the lead, or like don't lead with that,
Don't
because
lead with the acting in a De Palma movie.
it's not generally considered to be the reason you go to a De Palma movie, and if you're a fan of De Palma's work, I don't really feel like the acting in his movies is what you're always really a big fan of.
Maybe not, but I'll return to the Untouchables. There's some performances in that movie that I love, that I adore.
Okay.
Frank Nitti, the guy who
Okay.
plays Frank Nitti. I'm forgetting his name right now.
Again, you could argue that I mean, Untouchables, it's definitely later period De Palma, but it's almost like not like a De Palma movie in some ways. So you tend to like the De Palma movies that are a little bit less De Palma than the others, and I like the really De Palma ones.
The really
Like,
De Palma
I
one.
like the most De Palma stuff that you can get. I like more than the ones that are more respectable, because I think
Okay.
him at his sleaziest is him at his most honestly De Palma.
Okay.
And when he tries to be like you know, kind of more mature in Hollywood, they can be great. Untouchables is great, but you know, I'd rather see Nick Cage screaming in Snake Eyes than the Untouchables.
Okay. Now, the performances surrounding Nick Cage in that long 20-minute sequence at the beginning, the one shot, right?
Yeah.
There's some stuff in that I adore.
I tell me what it was. I was so enthralled. I don't care what the performances were. That's the thing. Like I don't. I wasn't even looking at the performances. I was so completely blown away by the filmmaking chops on display here that the acting was like, who cares? I don't care who's talking. Who gives a shit? That's how I felt. I mean, so in a way, Nick Cage couldn't ruin it for me. But who did you think
Gotcha.
was great?
Luis Guzman
Oh,
in that
fantastic.
sequence just takes it away.
It's fantastic. He steals people's lunches all the time, Louis
Yeah.
Guzman. He's just incredible.
Kevin Dunn again. I mean, everybody is in that shot.
But you mean Gary Sinise?
No, I mean the actor.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, the actor Kevin Dunn, not the character Kevin
Yeah.
Dunn. But then there's Gary Sinise, whose face in this movie looks like a Hirschfeld caricature of his face. I mean, he looks drawn. You know, his hairline, his eyebrows, his chiseled everything. He looks like
He's
a
got
drawing.
he has eyebrow raising here that is world dominating. It is
It's
incredible what he does with his eyebrows.
unbelievable. Yeah. And the moment where you realize that he's the bad guy, I
His
think
look that he
is the
gives to
best-
Cage.
it's the best crafted moment in the entire movie, because so often that moment where you realize, oh, the guy we didn't know was the bad guy is actually the bad guy, is often so heavy-handed. And it was just a little look in this to me.
I love that moment. I thought that was a great
Because
great
I
moment.
didn't expect it. I did not expect him to be the bad guy. Um,
Um,
and I thought that was really well executed.
he's well done. It was well acted. It was well, yeah. It was really. It was a great moment.
But so he gets to do some great stuff in this movie, Gary Sinise. He gets some great stuff to do, and then he has to do the last scene that he does, and my heart broke for him in that last scene that he had to do that.
He got paid. Don't be too sad.
But you know what I'm talking about, right?
I do, but my heart breaks for everybody because it's not. I mean, that the whole ending of that movie was a mess. And my buddy Peter sent me an article right before the show, which I got a chance to kind of look at about how there was a big tidal wave at the end of this, a CGI tidal wave, and a hurricane. There's a hurricane throughout, but it's kind of not really part of the plot too much now. In the original cut, there was like a whole end of days tornado, and then they had to cut all that and basically just left Gary Sinise to just kind of like go and fall dead. It was
And
really embarrassing.
There is still dialogue in the movie referencing the sequence that was cut out.
Yeah.
When Nick Cage has to talk about the dream and remembering feeling like he was drowning.
Yeah.
Well, that sequence is gone now. So what are you talking about?
Well, it doesn't. Yeah, there are some problems with that second half, and I will never ever try to tell you otherwise.
Okay, all right. Oh, thank you.
The movie completely falls apart, but I was so sad that it did. That's the difference between us. The first half of it I was just like
you were in heaven,
rolling around in like a pig in mud. I was just so happy. Because in a way, I appreciated not having to pay attention to the performances, because overall, I really wasn't particularly enthralled with the acting in this movie. It wasn't like my favorite part of it. It's not the most notable thing about it.
You're an acting teacher, right? You teach acting?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, you must have me confused with somebody else. I also teach filmmaking, though, and I think
That's true.
I think that acting in film is
Actors are cattle.
I think that they should be cattle when it's time to be cattle. And then when it's not,
I'm gonna get a T-shirt that says "It's time to be cattle."
No, what I'm gonna say is that I feel like acting gets the front row seat in the discussion about a lot of film, and it doesn't for me. It's not the reason I go to movies. Acting in film isn't the thing that excites me most about movies. It excites me most about the theater.
Right.
And it depends on the
agree
actor.
with you on that, because it wasn't until I started directing theater and working at a film school and talking about directing film and really looking at that. It wasn't until I started doing that where I realized how much of a backseat actors really, not how much of a backseat they're in, but as growing up as an actor, I always thought I'm the tip of the spear. It's all about the performance. And it was only later that I started realizing, it ain't all about the performance. The performance is a little piece of a whole bunch of storytelling that's going on. And it wasn't until later that I started to really realize that. So I'm with you there.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I'm just weird in the sense that I guess maybe it's weird. Actors don't draw me in to go to the movies. Directors do. Directors, cinematographers, writers, they are the ones that make me go to a movie. Very few actors let me put it this way. I'm talking about going to the theater. Like, I'm excited about a new movie.
Right.
It's not going to be because of the actor, like, 80% of the time for me. It's going to be about other things.
It's going to be the DP and the filmmaking more than anything for you, right?
The director, the shooting, the writing, sometimes the craft service, things like that.
Well, that's good. It's good that we get to argue then on this show, because for me, it's the acting and the plot more than anything else.
I
And and
think that's great for theater and books, but not so much for movies. It's
and
not
I sort of,
essential.
but I sort of look at the cinematography and everything else as in service of the plot, in service of the story, rather than an end in itself.
I think that I agree with you to a point, but to me, I would say it has to be in service to the theme and not the plot or the narrative as much as or the story.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Because I think the plot of this movie is stupid. I don't care. This is a dumb. I'm sorry, David Koepp. This is a stupid script, and the changes that you all had to make to work on this difficult production with you removing hurricanes. It's quite stupid, but it's also
Okay, but before you
really
keep going,
men.
I agree with you. But before you go down that road, we just have to give a nod to David Koepp, who has also done some amazing stuff.
He has, but he's one of the
Yeah.
biggest, highest paying writers in Hollywood.
Okay.
I don't.
No,
He
we can
doesn't
talk
need
about what
me
a
to
terrible.
be a
Yeah.
fan of
No,
his work.
we can talk about what a terrible thing this is.
Yeah, that's like me talking about whether I like the Beatles or not. Like, who cares? Everybody likes the. Who cares what I think? They have enough love. They have enough affection. So anyway, I feel like to go to Snake Eyes and to go through the first 40 minutes of this movie, which is a tightrope walk of directorial hubris and getting away with stuff that is absolutely, to me, just, I mean, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I literally couldn't believe what I was witnessing, and I do not understand why that wouldn't at least give you more joy in the first half than it seems to have. But I get it. It's not front row for you, and the acting couldn't tank this for me because first and foremost, I felt like this is a highly melodramatic movie. The script is super phony. It's super melodramatic, but also you could say it's super stylized and super like a cliches of noir and all these things kind of in this amalgam. So maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's just super like a cartoon, and maybe it's trying to be that. I don't know.
Okay, well let's dive into that for a second, because I'll pull up one shot that I I didn't I saw what he was doing, but I didn't understand it in the sense that when I looked at it, I thought that's an idea he went with and decided to try it, but what narrative purpose did it serve? And the shot I'm talking about is when we jump into one of those Rashomon sequences, we flash back in time, and now we're going to see this whole sequence of events that we've already seen, but we're going to see them from Stan Shaw's point of view, and we're looking through Stan Shaw's eyes at everything that happened. And then it gets to a certain point in that sequence when Stan Shaw looks in the mirror, and without cutting, we're no longer in his POV anymore. We're watching from the outside. So it happens within the shot,
Hmm.
the point of view changes. And when I looked at that, I couldn't figure out the narrative reason for it. So to me, I thought, well, this is just being fancy for the sake of being fancy because I can. And maybe I missed it. Maybe there was a point to that.
I think I don't know. The only thing I didn't think there was a point. I thought it was an interesting and elegant way to get out of having to see everything through his literal eyes for a minute. I mean, you either cut to something else, which is the norm, the traditional way that you do it, and De Palma found a new way to make a transition into a slightly different point of view. I totally disagree with you on that because I think that the movie is a genius exploration thematically you of of the point of view scenario. I think it's about point of view. It's not really about voyeurism. It's more about point of view, and that's why Rashomon. It's not just a surface connection that it has to it. I mean, you're talking about a movie that is that completely layered with the symbolism of eyes looking and cameras looking and points of views about characters shifting at and it's that whole thing is controlled like an orchestra. I mean, it is absolutely phenomenally tight. And there's an aspect to the stuff that De Palma's interested in that I think I just get really excited about. And some of it's like he gets a little cartoonish and melodramatic and soap opera with the acting and stuff sometimes. And I feel like his heart isn't in sometimes the script or the narrative as much as he is in pictures, in thinking in terms of imagery and theme and pictures. And so I just love hanging out with him and watching him make movies. I mean, I just think they're incredible devices. He makes these crazy worlds that are, really bizarre, but chock full of thematic development visually
And Dutch angles.
when necessary.
Yeah.
When necessary.
I love a good Dutch angle.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many references and so much film stuff going on. I mean, just to watch like how he stages a stampede out of this giant, convention center. He's trying to escape the cage. True, Maple Dragon. You can't escape the cage. You're gonna get caged in eventually. Just watching the incredible organization of camera and music and the editing of these images and it's just to me so incredibly it's just a cornucopia of amazing stuff. So the acting, I didn't care for the first hour, and then I cared. Don't get me wrong. Snake Eyes is a Snake Eyes is a good bad movie. But I think it's truly a trashy movie and a stupid idea that is so brilliantly technically achieved that I have to admire it.
Well, this goes back to something we were talking about last week, which is the movie that I would enjoy watching a second time.
Mm-hmm.
More than I enjoyed watching it the first.
Okay.
Right?
That goes in this category. Yeah, we did talk about that.
Yeah, we talked about that last week, and I think that you have this predisposition and love for the kind of movie that you would like watching the second time the first time. Like you're able to put yourself into that headspace the first time you see something.
I guess so. I guess. I mean, I think it's partly. I don't know. I don't know which headspace that is, except to say that I'm completely shallow and stories don't really mean anything to me.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that as we talked about it last week, that you have this love of everything that you know about what it was like being on that set, making that movie, having this experience. Mm-hmm. And I look at things, and believe me, this isn't a value judgment. I look at things through a very narrow lens often, and I'll admit that. I'll own that. And I think that lens probably prevents me from having a lot of enjoyment the first time, because I'm looking for a very specific thing.
Well, I mean? Yeah, I do know what you mean, and I mean, I think it's safe to say that we do appreciate movies in a different way. Like you do, I feel like the movies that you love, you adore, and you know very well. But it's like you're like a person who loves French food, and you could say that like you love cooking and you love food, and I know you have a wider palate than that, but it's as if. Right. You're a person who loves food, but you really only like going to French restaurants. And I'm like, I want to go. I'd be like, I want to go to a taco place. I want to go to a taco truck. I want to,
Right.
I want to go to a
Yeah.
fancy restaurant. And I'm equally enthused about all of it. And I try
Yeah.
to keep it commensurate to what's being offered. Like,
Okay. In
I
my
don't.
defense, I am like that with food,
You totally are. You
but I'm
totally,
not.
totally
But I
are.
am not like that with movies.
But it's also, it doesn't mean you're not discerning with food. Like you know the difference between a taco from from a truck and maybe like a mole sauce at a very fancy restaurant.
Prefer the
You
truck.
you might prefer the truck, but okay. But so then okay, so that's in a way like maybe that's the same as Snake Eyes. Like Snake Eyes isn't a fancy restaurant. It doesn't have a
Right.
great script and fancy narrative and like tied up beautiful things that make sense. Doesn't have any of that shit. It's got an amazing first hour that they're just gonna show you things and try to entertain you as much as they humanly possibly can. They're gonna completely exhaust themselves doing it. I
But see, that's
it's
why I love doing this show with you, because I would go back and watch Snake Eyes again and have a completely different experience than I had the first time.
yeah. Well, we should see movies together then.
No, I think
Then you
that
can
could
point out the narrative
could
stuff
turn
that I'm
into
missing.
that could turn into fisticuffs in front of the Ziegfeld.
Admittedly, there's a I'm trying to get a hand. Like you like Untouchables, and
Yeah.
you like Carrie, and you liked Carlito's Way.
Yeah.
Let's get deeper into this. Do you like Body Double?
Maybe we have to watch that sometime because I haven't seen it for so long.
Okay. Do you
I
like
like Body Double in the sense
Scarface?
that the young Kathleen Turner was in it.
Okay, you're in dangerous ground. Do you like Scarface?
Yes.
Okay.
Speaking of opera,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So
In fact, I pronounce it Scaraface, but
okay. I don't see why, but I appreciate that.
because it's an Italian opera, Scaraface.
Carrie,
Yeah,
Phantom of the Paradise,
I haven't seen Phantom of the Paradise.
Sisters.
I don't think I've seen Sisters.
Yeah. Well, you like a mixture of it, because Scarface is a tawdry movie. It's no damn good for you, that movie, but it's great.
No, it's not good for you, but it's great.
I think part of it for me, there's this weird meta thing, I guess, about it, where I'm like, he's gonna go to Atlantic City, to the gaudiest place in the world, and deal with the gaudiest characters in the world.
And Donald Trump.
Exactly, and he goes 120% there. That's what I like about De Palma. He doesn't try to keep it tasteful. He doesn't go like, well, I'm making a movie about this ridiculous, Atlantic City movie about an assassination plot that's not true. That will never happen. It's not realistic at all. This fall that the heavyweight champion takes in this movie, I don't believe it. I love that actor, and that scene is great. But as a narrative, I'm like, this is garbage. This is the stupidest. I would throw this book in the trash if I was reading this book.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
And I think part of what I like about De Palma, he's going like, right, yeah, isn't this it's trash, but then he finds like great art in it somewhere. He finds like amazing art in going 120% too far into it.
But see, plot-wise, that to me, there was a thing with the plot there, with the fight and the throwing of the fight, that I thought was really fascinating, and I didn't feel like De Palma handled it really well in the storytelling of it, which is the fact that Stan Shaw takes a dive, right? He's supposed to throw the fight, and that's supposed to get everybody in the arena on their feet, which will create a distraction for the moment when the assassination happens. And what clues Nicolas Cage into the fact that there's a plot going on at all is the fact that when Stan Shaw takes the dive, he gets quote unquote knocked out. He pretends to get knocked out, hits the canvas, the shot rings out, and it startles Stan Shaw, and he opens his eyes. So Nick Cage realizes that he's not unconscious. And I thought that was I found out about that later when Nick Cage describes it. I saw your eyes open. And I thought that if this film was told narratively more precisely, I would have seen that as an audience member. That could have been such an amazing moment of seeing his eyes pop open when the shot rings out, so that we're clued into the fact that there's something going on. And that got lost on me. And I hated the way it was revealed to me.
Well, as they say in Raiders of the Lost Ark, you're digging in the wrong place. You're looking for water where there is none. You need to be looking for something else, and I think then you would find it.
Bad dates.
Yeah, you're not going to find rational, sensible choices. You're not going to find tight plotting.
But that's such a great plot point.
Yeah, but that's not what he does best. That's not what De Palma really does. That's like that's like going to, that's like going to the taco truck expecting to get, coq au vin or something. It's like they don't do that there. De Palma's not going to do that. Okay, he makes big, sloppy, messy, just movies that barely hang together sometimes. But
see, now that you've given me an idea, which is coq au vin taco.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna make those.
That's my stripper name now. Actually, I just want
taco coq au vin.
No, coq au vin tacos. Coq au vin tacos.
Very good. Do you have a favorite moment in this movie?
Oh God. I mean, that's the thing. I have 1,000 favorite moments. Every other shot in this movie is a favorite moment. When I see things that are that technically just like phenomenally smoothly done and accomplished, I'm extremely excited. But if you want to talk about, like character moments or acting stuff that I thought was good,
you mean the stuff that really doesn't matter? Who cares? But apparently it's important to me.
Again, we're not. Don't bring a shoe horse to a gunfight. It's a different. It's apples and oranges. It's different
shoe horse.
Stuff.
What is a shoe horse? Is that a thing?
I don't know.
I'm not familiar.
Let's keep on. Let's try to keep to the.
I'm not familiar with a shoe horse.
Keep on track on the movie. What we're talking about.
Okay.
I do have a number of things I do moments I like. I do love a small scene where right after Gary Sinise kills two of his own personal associates. Well, he shoots one of them in the back, and the other one he shoots, and they're not dead yet. And that guy has a moment that is absolutely incredible to me. He's kind of goes into shock, and as Sinise is approaching him, is going to shoot him again. He starts just talking to him and saying, I've been shot. I've been shot, like, help me. And doesn't realize that he's going to get shot again. Like, he doesn't know that Sinise has done this to him. I thought that was one of the better death scenes I've seen in ages. I love that. And I love dearly, if you want to, again, talk about acting contributions, not a long conversation we could have about this movie, but I'm totally all in on that heavyweight boxer character. I think that Stan Shaw is great in it, and he has a moment that broke my heart, like as a performance.
That's what I have written down.
He talks about what it's like to have fixed this fight and taken a fall, and what it did to him mentally. That is It really gets you choked up. I think I sent this to you, right?
Yeah. But the moment that I have also involves him, and it's the flip side of that moment. It's the moment you're talking about, the moment where he describes it,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, it's the moment when he's in the ring when it
Oh,
happens.
it's
They have
great.
the shot of him after he almost knocks out his opponent, and he realizes that he can, and that he's not going
It's
to,
a great close-up.
and it broke my heart.
It's
But
fantastic.
you have this clip you want me to play.
Yeah.
All right.
It's him talking to Nick Cage about his decision.
Okay, here we go. I think here we go.
We're going
Right.
somewhere.
We're going somewhere. Hold on. It's coming.
Snakies.
It's coming at some point. Why is it not playing?
Well, this is going
This
poorly.
this is not going the way it's supposed to go. Okay, I see what I did wrong. Here we go. I have to share the screen, and then I have to hit the thing and press the button and share. And then
If I say yes, can we cut some kind of deal? You don't need a deal. I'm not going to say anything to anybody. You pay me back the 10 grand I lost plus $500 for shaming the ring, and I forgive you. What'd you do it for? You can't need the money. You got to be worth millions. They didn't tell me they were going to kill somebody. Who? Who didn't tell you? Look, man. See, you just don't understand. I just gave away the one thing I know that makes me me. The heavyweight championship. Now that I don't even have that, I don't even know who I am anymore. What they have on you.
You know, and it's not even good dialogue, to be totally honest. It's really cheesy. And the
yeah,
fact that he can do what he did with that, and he gets so choked up and he holds it back with dialogue that I don't know how if I would be able to deliver that. You know, it's not really. It's very melodramatic.
yeah, it's up there with my least favorite line that Nick Cage has to say to Gary Sinise when he says, "You're my best friend and you used me, made me a sucker, and that hurts because I would have done anything for you."
Yeah. Now, here we go. Like, yeah, all of that. I agree with you. It's not on point. The script is not my favorite. It goes all over. The narrative is kind of a mess. It's kind of melodramatic and silly. Hey, take it easy. I'm not talking to you. Not
That's
talking to you.
Anthony. That's Anthony talking to his cat.
That happens all day long. And you know, the cat totally made me forget what I was talking about too. That's the thing. He
You were talking
interrupts.
about how it's not on the dialogue's not on
Oh,
point, but that's not the point.
well, to me, I got so much out of the thematic development of these characters and how De Palma and I guess maybe Koepp create these really bold statements and really challenge us to follow them thematically through their visual how they're telling us visually and how they're imparting information about characters visually, how, you know, everything's about point of view. The whole movie's about point of view and it constantly shifts, right? Nick Cage, our point of view about Nick Cage's character in the first 20 minutes is that he is a complete creep. He's a misogynist. He's a crooked cop. He's got a gambling problem. He clearly has a coke problem, even though we don't see him doing blow. He's very coked up. He's obnoxious. He's a loudmouth. He and we assume because of these things that he's also a terrible cop. On top of being a womanizer, cheating male friends, and you know, he's just a bad guy. We also think he's stupid. He's dressed like a moron. And then something interesting happens. He changes clothes. He changes his shirt, very importantly. His Hawaiian shirt, which looks like snakeskin, you know. He gets blood on it or something. No, he has to go in front of the TV cameras. He's like, I got to go on TV. I can't go on TV like this. So he has to borrow a shirt. He gets a white shirt. Doesn't go with his suit. It doesn't look great. But he changes his image. And in that moment, then he goes in to have a conversation with the fighter, and he quickly turns the tables and shows us that he's in fact a quite smart cop and very capable. And he can manage a room full of people and take control of a situation and then have a heart-to-heart with this guy and get to the bottom of it very rapidly. Our point of view has completely changed about him, but it's so tied to the visual of his costume choice. It all, to me, goes back to like Strangers on a Train, like it's very Hitchcock, where you've got these two characters, Gary Sinise and him. You see them in the first shot together, and they're best friends. One of them is dressed literally as an admiral. He's an admiral. He's like got a fancy uniform on. Sidebar, really should be a taller actor to wear admiral clothes. Sailor clothes don't look good on you if you're short. I'm sorry. They wrote this part for Will Smith. That's what I'm talking about. 6'4", he could wear that costume. Gary Sinise looks like he's in a Halloween show, but the two of them together, best friends, right? One is in an admiral outfit, the other is in this slime ball like Vegas outfit, and then their uniforms become different things. They mean different things. His medals get blood on them at the end, and the way he responds to that, Sinise getting that insult of the blood on his medals, which is there, thematically anyway. That's the level of fascination I have with character and theme and development of it in terms of a visual approach that I find so exciting about De Palma's stuff. It's not that, there's no finesse to the acting. It's not that well thought out in terms of actor logic, but in terms of movie logic and a lot of homage to Hitchcock and other great filmmakers, which is always part of De Palma's thing. And then new ways of giving you visual information. That part of filmmaking and the enjoyment of going to movies is there 120% for me. The fact that he can take a theme like, the idea of a point of view, which implies an eye looking at something, right? And reflect that 1,000 different ways in this movie. You could say that he goes too far, or that it's like, enough already. But that's not, that's what makes it opera, and it's like cinema opera. So he's going to give you eyeballs in the wallpaper, just like Kubrick would give you these mazes in his wallpaper in The Shining. Like De Palma's doing his own version of this. The art direction that talks to the themes that are going on, the kinds of colors that he use behind actors at certain times when they'll become somebody else in our eyes. It's like right after that moment that Gary Sinise does that look in that tracking shot, and Nick Cage walks away, and we just see Gary Sinise look at him just like a beat too long. And we go, oh, something's up here. Yeah. In that same shot, there's a missile going through his head in the background, and an American flag. And the next thing he does after we go, there's something up with him, he goes into a doorway and enters a completely red environment. Like, it looks like 2001 red. Right. Not realistic, but at that level, orchestrating all of those things, I'm just so impressed, man. Just so impressed.
I gotta stop watching The Story.
Well, not all movies are work that level either. So, I think, De Palma is definitely a matter of taste for a lot of people. He's, it's hard because it seems like high art, but it's also really trashy, and he kind of makes high art out of trash, and that he loves that, and that's a strange place to try to take movies seriously at because of all that baggage. But
did you notice the line from Carlito's Way in this movie?
Oh yeah, here comes the pain, right?
Here comes the pain.
Yeah.
From that great moment in the bathroom before he comes out of the bathroom with the unloaded gun.
Yeah. Yeah. Granted, Carlito's Way, you got a sequence like that with a performance, a character that's drawn by an actor like Pacino, where you really believe you believe in the veracity of this human being. Like, you really think this is a person.
If not the accent.
If not the accent, exactly. There's a lot of, there's a lot of soul there. And Pacino's got so much soul, And you know that Pacino's the kind of actor that probably, like, demanded that kind of attention to the acting part of that movie. And De Palma clearly can bring it when he's working with actors of that caliber. But I think when he's working with a different bunch, he's like, well, let's make a melodrama. Let's make a crazy cartoon like melodrama. And that's how I took it.
I think my favorite line in this movie is Gary Sinise's line to Nick Cage when he explains to him the whole plot and what's going to happen now. And he says, that's called the first draft of history, and it's going to hold. And that idea of that we have orchestrated the cover up, the news has it, and it's done. It's never going to go back. And I loved that.
Yeah. That was a great moment.
And that's the parallax view moment in this movie.
I was blown away by, like, the introduction of what is it called? It's called the zero gravity flying eye. So in a movie that's all about eyeballs, literally, like, it's about eyeballs and looking at things.
Right.
That's the plot for De Palma. I'm convinced. I mean, it starts with, the Daily Planet globe, which looks like an eyeball. It's got like nerves attached to it. It's like the first image we see. When they get to this zero gravity flying eye that is basically just a drone blimp that flies around the interior of this Madison Square Garden place, like in Atlantic City, the convention center, and it's literally a God's eye point of view. It can see everything. It can go anywhere and it can see anything because it's got cameras on it and it flies around. Now, since it's all about POV changing, the big crisis for Cage's character is that he's actually true blue. We think he's this creep who doesn't have any morals, and it turns out he is so moral that he believes so much in his friend and his friend's goodness and in his alma mater and in the ethics of sports that he literally can't handle it when Gugino says this guy's corrupt. He's like, I can't do it. You can't tell me that. He loses it, right?
Yeah.
So the big crisis moment is putting all these different points of view together, all these different camera feeds that he's looking at the crime from all these different angles that's been picked up by all these different cameras. And then he gets introduced to the zero gravity flying eye, which is essentially God's point of view. Yeah. And when he sees God's point of view, that's all point of views. That's all of them all together.
Right.
He has his crisis of faith with the image of the American flag kind of hazy in the window as he's having this moment.
Yeah.
And his life is never going to be the same. Like, he literally changes, his point of view changes who he is as a human being. Now, I think that's actually kind of great storytelling.
That is pretty good.
It's just not about, it's not about
and as Gary Sinise says, that wasn't supposed to be there.
Right.
That there was not supposed to be an all-encompassing point of view.
Right.
Interesting. I like that. Okay.
So, I mean, I'm hopefully I've made a case that there are things in the story or the narrative that are really actually well threaded, just not in the way that is pleasing to people looking for rational characters and believable interactions with people, because that's not going to happen.
No, once again, I think one of the themes of this show is that you educate me.
Oh, now really? I like the sound of this. Tell me
You
more
do.
about that.
I think we should change the name of the show to Anthony Arkin Educates His Brother.
Well, no.
This is sort of turning into Science Friday, with the guy who knows a lot about science and the skeptical guy who asks the stupid questions. And you know that show, Science Friday?
I don't.
Yeah, well, listen to a couple of episodes of Science Friday, and I'll be the guy who doesn't know a lot and gets educated.
That's not true. But see, you could counter and say, yeah, but think how great this would be if you did all that and you actually cared about the people.
Well, I don't want to say that. That's too easy.
If I waited for movies to be as good as you need them to be to entertain you,
You wouldn't be entertained
I
very
would
often.
never I wouldn't go to the movies.
Yeah, but see, then I can get completely lost for weeks on end on shows that are objectively bad in terms of production values and not so, not such great acting or anything, but very, very plot driven. And
Oh
I
yeah.
and I love, I'm in the midst of a 21 episode British forensic drama called Silent Witness. And I'm not going to make a case that this is high art, but boy, put me into those forensic procedurals and try and figure out the tightly woven plot,
Mm,
character driven plot.
yeah.
And I'll sit through the crappiest filmmaking in the world to watch that.
Oh man, and that's where we're different. Yeah,
And
that's exactly where we're different.
I
I
mean,
can't.
you and Dad will kill yourselves watching Law and Order, and I'm like, "What are you talking about? Did you see how?" It's like,
Yeah, I can't do it.
yeah,
I can't do it. Yeah, yeah. Clearly, I would watch any nonsensical visual stimulus other than that dry biscuit, and that's not just because I've auditioned all my life and never been on the frickin' show.
and I've done 8 episodes, so
I'm
what
gonna
don't
say
get it?
this right here on the air, live. Screw you, Law and Order. Don't need you. Lived my whole life without you. Don't need you. Don't want to
Yeah.
be on the shows now.
See,
I don't care how many of them you make. Here's it. I'm not going to be on it.
yeah, and see some of my proudest moments.
We're on Law and Order.
Yeah,
You had great moments on that show.
I did an episode of Law and Order where after it ran, women were stopping me on the street in Manhattan and calling me a son of a bitch
At least women were talking to you.
because my wife on the show was raped and got pregnant and decided to keep the baby, and I left her, and people were very
They
upset
took that.
with me.
They well, understandably.
And my response every time was to say, first of all, it's a television show, and more importantly, she lied to me.
Mhm.
That was my response.
Well, I wish I knew what it was like to get stopped in the street based on your acting work.
It wasn't my acting work; it was the plot. And
Dun,
Maple
dun,
Dragon
yes.
says "dun dun."
Exactamente. We have a bad relationship, me and Law and Order, and I feelings are mutual. Let's just put it that way. But Amelia's been on the show as well. I have, she's been great on the show too.
And
many
Mom.
friends, and everybody
Mom,
I know,
Mom.
every actor in New York has been on it except for me.
Well, I had a talk with Suzanne Ryan about you. What can I say?
Who's that?
Lynn Kressel.
Who's that?
So next week, more Nick Cage
More. The cage match continues.
in Face/Off.
Yeah, boy.
I believe it's just called Face Off, but
If you had trouble with this one, I can only imagine how much fun you're going to have with Face Off.
well, maybe now I'm prepared. Maybe now I am primed for a little Cage.
Okay.
Right.
Look, it's not. It's not for everybody. But
All right.
But there are pleasures there, deep pleasures in the cage milieu.
All right.
What can I say?
Okay, well, to take the time, if you are watching this show or listening to the podcast, take the time to watch Face Off this week and join us next week for our discussion because, as you know, we do spoilers constantly.
That's all
and
we do.
Maple Dragon says, John, woo-hoo!
That's right.
Very
this
nice.
is going to be some filmmaking we're going to
So,
see.
yeah, it's going to be some good stuff. So thanks for joining us. Tune in next week and enjoy the movies.
Good night, sir.
Good night.